Labs vakars, labs reids for those who are on other side of the ocean, not in Europe right now. Yeah, I think at first I would like to give my presentation and I would like to answer questions at the second part of today's webinar, because maybe already I will answer to your questions during my presentation. So today's topic is about the revitalization of the Latgalian language, which is spoken in Latvia, in eastern part of Latvia. But at first, I would like to give a short review about the history of the Latgalian language. I see from your names that some of you are familiar with the Latgalian situation, but not all of you. And probably some of you were at the previous presentation when Arnis told more about the history of Latgala and about the Latgalian language. But anyway, I think I have to give this short review. But at first, I would like to say several words about myself. My background is in history. I'm not a linguist, but for last, I would say 10 years, I'm related with the Latgalian language. And right now I work in NGO, Student Center of Latgale. And the aim of this NGO is to promote the Latgalian language. Also, I work for Latgalian webpage Lakuga.lv. And the owner of this webpage is the previous NGO that I mentioned. And also today I represent the international project Calling, where we cooperate with other activists and scholars with the aim to promote Latgalian and also minority languages, not only in Europe, but also in Mexico. So that's about myself. As you hear, I'm giving my speech in English, and this is my fourth language. And last week, I realized that all my friends, colleagues, family members, also acquaintances are multilingual. And I will not lie when I say that almost all people in Latvia know at least 2 languages. And actually, many of them know at least 3. And of course, Latgalians have had always one language more, that's Latgalian, about which we are going to speak today. And why I mentioned about these several languages, because the region of Latgala has been multilingual, multicultural, and multi-ethnic. And this cocktail of all these aspects had an impact on the mentality of Latgalians and the language processes. Yeah. So before I start my presentation, I would like to note that Latgalians are not separate nationality. We are the same Latvians, but only with our specific language. And it is interesting that the Latgalian language actually is part of the Latvian language, and about that I will tell a bit later. But at the same time, the Latgalian language is minorized, and I would say that from this use perspective, it is the regional language. But of course, we don't have this status of the regional language. So yeah. In this map, you can see where Latvia is located. That's a pink one. We are the border between Russia and the European Union. And actually, in Latgala, the European Union starts or ends. It depends from your perspective how you are looking on this. So in this slide, in pink color, you can see the Latgala region. It's a region where I live and where Latgalian is spoken. A bit light pink is Riga. It's a capital, and also many Latgalians live there. And of course, you will hear also Latgalian in areas which in this map are green. And actually, you will hear Latgalian around the world. So there are a few Latgalians almost in each country. So if we talk about numbers, then about 8–9% of residents of Latvia speak Latgalian. In Latvia, we have around a bit less than 2 million people. And if we talk about numbers, then Latgalian is used by 164,000 people. And I would say that actually it's a huge number if we compare with other regional or minoritized languages in Europe. And this data, 8–9%, it's a self-identification. And data comes from the population census that we had already almost 10 years ago. And you might ask, why do Latgalians who are Latvians have their own language? And for that, we have to go back for several centuries. In this map, you can see different tribes that lived in the territory of nowadays Latvia. You can see this red line, it shows the territory of nowadays Latvia. And blue ones are Latgals, our ancestors. And of course, our language and culture is based on their cultural language, but it's not the same because we separate two terms, Latgals and Latgalians. Latgals is about this period, about Middle Ages, and Latgalians we use when we talk about the modern society and today's language processes. So yeah, all these tribes spoke different languages. We don't know how they sound because we don't have any written monuments from that time. We even don't know if they have any scripts at that time. All these tribes were pagans, and then crusaders from Germany came in 20th century and said that they will be Christians. And during these centuries, the territory of Latvia was administratively the territory of Latvia was administered by different other countries, and basically native citizens were farmers with no access to education and better life, and it influenced cultural languages processes in Latvia, and including the Latgalian. It happened that till World War I, the territory of Latvia, the territory of nowadays Latgala was administratively separated from other territories inhabited by Latvians, and it happened for several centuries. In history of Latgala, very important is the period when Latgala was part of the Russian Empire, as well as other territories of nowadays Latgala, but Latvia. But there is one important fact that Latgala was incorporated in Vitebsk administrative territory, known as gubernia, while other parts of Latvia were incorporated in other gubernias, and they had more privileges. And during this period, economic, social, also religious life and other aspects of everyday life in Latgala happened different than in other Latvian areas. And so nowadays we are very mobile. We travel, see other cultures, languages, have different cultural experiences, and it seems very natural for us. But in 1819, even at the beginning of 20th century, for almost all Latvians, it was not accessible. Latgalians and other Latvians, they lived as neighbors to each other, of course, they met each other, for instance, at markets, but they didn't have the same. They didn't have this cultural exchange, and they didn't have the same cultural and language space. But for all these two groups of Latvians, for them their identity was clear, and they named themselves as Latvians. Latgalian identity was based on their language and Catholicism, but they didn't have rights to use their language in public space. For instance, they couldn't get education in Latgalian or print books in Latgalian. Until the beginning of 20th century, the Latgalian language was stigmatized. Also, there was very hard Russification policy in territory of nowadays Latgola, while in other parts of today's Latvia, these processes didn't happen because they were in other administrative territory. And all these factors delayed the national awakening of Latgalian, and it started only at the beginning of the last century, while in other parts of Latvia it started 50, 70 years earlier. But when the Latin ban was cancelled at 1944, this Latgalian national awakening started. So they started to think more about books. They started to publish books. Also, they created first newspapers. They had different organizations. For instance, they played theater. And also at that time, they started work on the systematization of the Latgalian grammar. So now we are a bit closer to our main topic, but still I want to give some thesis. Latvia, as a lot of countries in Europe, got its independence after World War I, and it happened in 1918. And at the same time, Latgola officially came as a part of Latvia. As you see, the constitution says that Latgola, as well as other regions where lived Latvians, is one of these is one of the territory that makes Latvia. And actually, since this period, their new year come for the Latgalian language till the takeover of the Latvian government by authoritarian Kārlis Ulmanis regime in 1934. Latgalian was made a co-official language. So it meant that the Latgalian was used at schools, also at municipalities, and basically all processes that happened in other parts of Latvia, the same processes happened in Latgola, but only in the Latgalian language. So during this period, of course, they published plenty of books, newspapers, they had different NGOs. Also, they worked very hard on the standardization of the grammar. But these things change a bit when Kārlis Ulmanis took power, and he started to limit the use of the Latgalian language, because his idea was to Latvianize the Latvian, and at that time Latgalian was like a wrong Latvian, and it could not fit in his concept. So he limited use of the language, and also he limited minorities' languages and cultures. Then came the Second World War. At first, Latvia was occupied by Soviets, and Latgalian was forbidden. Then came Nazi, and there is interesting fact about Nazi regime that they supported Latgalian activists and supported the use of the Latgalian language, but it was not because they were huge fans of Latgalian. It was because they had problems at war and they wanted to get support from locals, so they gave them these rights to use the Latgalian language. And yeah, then Latvia was again occupied by Soviets. And during that time, Latgalian was forbidden. The use of the language was limited. And actually, if you are interested what happened with Latgalian during 20s, 30s, 40s, and till the second part of 50s, you can watch this documentary, A Time, a People and Language. I put here a link, so it has English subtitles, and if someone will be interested in this, you can text me later an email, and I will send you my presentation, and you will have all links. So where I live, there are storm straps, so I hope it will not disturb you. The thunder will not disturb you. So yeah, if we're talking about these Soviet times, then I have to say that Latgalian was totally forbidden. The language users were stigmatized, and people start to feel shame about their Latgalian identity and accent when they spoke the Latvian literal language. And many families stopped to use their language with their children. At that time, there was one party, one leader, one ideology, and only one correct Latvian. And Latgalian was something wrong and defective. And of course, during that time, nothing about Latgalian had been taught at schools. And also, these concepts from Soviet times have influenced today's attitude toward Latgalian. So yeah, independence. Maybe you can text me in chat. Is it okay? Can you hear? Because I hear that rain is very heavy. Is it okay for you? I don't see chat. Okay, Guillaume sent smiling, so it means it's okay. Yeah, because maybe song for you works a bit different. Yeah, now we are closer to nowadays. Independence of the Republic of Latvia was restored in 1990, and the Latgalian language and culture slowly become more visible. And that's the reason why we can talk about the revitalization of the Latgalian language. Officially in Latvia, we use the term Latgalian written language, but in everyday use, people just say Latgalīšu valoda, the Latgalian language. Officially, the Latgalian written language is a historic variant of the Latvian language, as it said in the official language law of Latvia. But in reality, as I meant before, use domains of the language is more like for regional language. Also, I want to mention that Latgalian is one of the Baltic languages, and the written version of the Latgalian was created at the beginning of 18th centuries. So it means that we have written monuments for several centuries. It is not something that showed up in last century. So, yeah. Several more facts about the Latgalian, that we also have the language ISO code, in this case LTG, and ISO codes are allotted to languages when the commission of experts recognize it as the language. if we talk about relationships between Latvian and Latgalian, I have to mention that the Latvian language consists of two variants, the Latgalian written language and the Latvian literal language, which is used in media, is taught at schools. Books are published in Latvian literal language, but there is interesting fact that in everyday use we just say Latvian language, not Latvian literal language, and it could be a bit confusing. And actually, when someone says to me, "Speak Latvian with me," I speak Latgalian because the Latgalian language is the Latvian language. If someone says, "Speak to me Latvian literal language," then of course, in that case, I can't use the Latgalian because it's not the same. Previous time, when Arnis had his presentation, someone asked how close is the Latgalian language, the Latgalian written language and Latvian literal language. In this slide, I just gave you some examples to show that actually they're very close. But at the same time, I could give you plenty of words that are totally different in both these languages. And it's not that all Latgalians speak the same, speak the same language, if I can say like that. But of course, there are regional differences, but mainly they are in vocabulary. But it's not that someone is from two different villages and they can't understand each other. Of course, they can understand. And in this map, you see that we have 3 dialects in Latvia. And then also each dialect has several versions, but basically these versions are in vocabulary. Before I speak about the revitalization, I would like to play a short video because I'm sure that not all of you know how Latgalian sounds. So I will play the video.
Par ko tad būs kina eisumā?
Par cilvēkiem.
Ļoti eisumā.
Kas vispār ir jāizdara, lai tiktu pie galvenos lomas?
Jopāt brūkaškas.
Timā dīnā vai katru dīnu?
Timā dīnā. Jo es teirēju zūbi, jo noskaita tāvs mūsu sveicinot, lai ir tāvam. Tad jūs mīļoju visi radinīki, jūs mīļoju daudzi citi cilvēki.
Kačs.
Jā, kačs arī.
Jāpaglauda.
Jābūt ļoti pīklojēgam, labsirdēgam pašam sev.
This is how Latgalian sound. So back to my presentation. You might ask where Latgalian language is used. Before that, I wanted to say about this term of the revitalization. The process of the revitalization of the Latgalian language is not controlled, and there's no any state or non-governmental organization which would coordinate activities and manage financial resources. Also, we don't have special funds for Latgalian, but each year we have a regional culture program, and many Latgalian projects get financial support in this program, and also we, for our activities, get support from other programs, and some activities are supported by mecenates. Yeah, and this is interesting that this process of the revitalization is not controlled, but at the same time it happens. And it happens because the Latgalian community is very active and people want to develop, safe and popularize their mother tongue. And I think if you ask to those people why do you revitalize the Latgalian language, they will be confused about the use of the word revitalize because people don't think about their work as the process of the revitalization. They just do what their hearts say to do and what is important to them. And actually, this translation of the word revitalization, it doesn't sound in Latvian and Latgalian. It sounds for us a bit odd. And when I have to translate this word in Latvian, I always think, is it the correct version to say atdzīvināšana? Because yeah, it's in Latvian it sounds a bit odd. Yeah, if we talk about this process of the revitalization, as I said, you might have a question: where can you use the Latgalian language? And the short answer is that you can use it everywhere. And but it's not that all Latgalians use this opportunity, because it's not forbidden to use the Latgalian language in the communication with the municipalities and the governmental organizations. But not all Latgalians, not all, but most of Latgalians don't do that because they're a bit confused. Will they accept, for instance, their submissions? And at the same time, clerks are confused because they don't know what to do with these official documents in Latgalian. But the good thing is that Minister of Justice, who is Latgalian and who is in charge of the Latvian language policy, is encouraging Latgalians to use their language in communication with municipalities. And actually, it depends on us, from us as the community, will we use this opportunity to use the Latgalian language not only in everyday communication, but also in this official communication. If we talk about the revitalization, we have to talk about schools. I have to say that Latgalians are very proud of their language and they use it in everyday life, not only in verbal communication, but also a lot of them use it on social media. I mean, they write. Of course, they write with spelling mistakes because they didn't have an opportunity to get these skills. We have only several schools where Latgalian is taught, and these are not obligatory lessons. They are optional. We have several teaching materials, but of course we need more. Also, probably teachers would be more interested in these Latgalian lessons, but also they say that they would like to visit some courses or to improve their Latgalian. Yeah, so I want to say that NGO where I work, we organized language lessons several years ago. Also in 2016, we created self-learning materials. And I know that now is going to work on a new book for beginners, and it will have instructions in English. So it means more people will have an opportunity to learn Latgalian language. And I have to admit that when there are these opportunities to improve grammar skills, it's not that all Latgalians are very interested, they not always use this opportunity, but actually they are in safe because soon we will have spell checker. Unfortunately, I don't have more information about this spell checker, and I just know that it's now in the process of creating. Also, if we talk about the revitalization, I have to mention music. Because nowadays music has a very important role for Latgalians' identity and in language promotion. More than 50 years ago, Latgalian youngsters started to sing pop and rock music in Latgalia. Before that, the language was used only in traditional folk music and in Schlager, in country music, which is similar to German Schlager music. And these pop and rock musicians started to prove young people that it's normal to speak Latgalian. It's cool to sing in this and do different activities, and that they don't have to feel shame about their Latgalian. And I think these singers become like idols for many young people, and they started their own activities in Latgalian. And I would say that with this pop and rock music in Latgalian, a new era for the Latgalian language started. Also, very often, music for citizens of Latvia is the first way how they get to know the Latgalian language. And there I would like to tell some words about the rap band Latgalīšu Reps. This band is very famous in Latvia for the last 3 years. And I think it was 2 years ago, when they for many weeks were in top of Latvian music charts. And they are the first Latgalian band whose official video for the song Žāre Gaļa on YouTube is watched for more than 2 million times. Maybe for other communities, 2 million, it's not a huge number, but for us, it's something, yeah. And with them, it's interesting that they attract not only Latgalians, and I have heard stories that even non-Latgalian children sing their songs. The next topic about which I would like to speak is literature. And I have to mention that for each language, literature is very important in order to keep and revitalize the language. And of course, Latgalians is not an exception. Also, book publishing is always a matter of language prestige. Each year, around 10-15 books in Latgalian are published, and my NGO in last 15 years published 11 books, and 3 more will be this year. In Latgalian, mostly poetry and novels are published. We don't have tradition to write books about the history of the region, about nature and sports in Latgalian. And unfortunately, also we don't have this tradition of translations from other languages. We have, as I said, different sorts of books. In this photo, you can see poetry, novels, also fairy tales. It's cool that we have books for children. Not so much, maybe each year one, some years two. And what else is important, that the constitution of Latvia is translated into Latgalian. And yeah, and as I said before, that literature in Latgalian focuses on Latgalian issues, but I hope that in next years we will change this, and we will work more on different sorts of book in Latgalian, including translations from other languages. Now I would like to tell more about the landscape of the Latgalian language. The Latgalian language is visible, and that's the reason why we can talk about this landscape. So in this one of these photos, you see the regional concert hall in Rezekne city, and it has a Latgalian name, Kors, which means spirit and steel. It's a word game in Latgalian, and this is one of the best concert halls in Baltic region, and its high status increases the status of the Latgalian language. Also, Latgalian is used for restaurants and store names and tourism objects. And in the second photo of this slide, you can see a local distillery which has a Latgalian name. In this slide, you see the different products, different food products, and not only have Latgalian names. First one photo is coffee. Then I last year found somewhere in Riga in one store sausage, which says that it's Latgales dasa. It's a sausage from the Latgala region. On first line, the last one photo is the different sorts of pasta. It's like pasta family. And each package has its own name, like mother is, I guess she was Madalionka, then father was Jezups, and son is Ioannis. These are very popular Latgalian first names. Also, Latgalian you can see, for instance, on t-shirts. This photo in the middle, I don't know how to name it in English, but basically it's thing you have to stick your car number, and then you stick this thing to your car, in front of your car and backside of your car. Also, there is a face mask with the title on it says "Dod bučenju," which means give a kiss. So in this slide you see some places like a restaurant. It's not only that in Latgala are restaurants or cafeterias where you can see menu in Latgalian. I know at least three places in Riga, in the capital. Yeah, different place names you can find in Latgalian. Then posters. This one photo is in library. It's where they systemize books by different topics, and in this case I don't see very well something about geography. And yeah, so these are several examples. And many of these photos that I showed you, you can find on an Instagram account, Valoda, which means the language. I'm in charge of this account, and the idea of this account is to document the Latgalian landscape. If we see something in Latgalian, we just publish it on that Instagram account. And also, I think this is cool thing that other communities can use because it doesn't take any effort, doesn't take a big effort, it doesn't need any financial resources, just your time. With this slide, I want to say that Latgalian is used on social media. There are not only Facebook, also, as I said, Instagram, Twitter, probably TikTok. And this language is not used only by average people, but different organizations choose to communicate with their clients or offer their services in Latgalian. In one of these photos, you can see Batman, because we have several pages where these memes are published because people love them. If I talk about social media, I also have to mention regular video. And first slide, on first photo, you see the screenshot of a page where I work. Our content is only in Latgalian, and we write about Latgalian issues. We have interviews with famous Latgalians, and not only with Latgalians, but other people who have opinion about the Latgalian language and this culture space. Also, we try to explain grammar rules and give some tips for writing skills. This is the onlyest mass media with the content only in Latgalian. Then we have several regional newspapers where you can sometimes find something in Latgalian. We have one regional journal. There are also several articles in Latgalian, but most of them are in Latvian literal language. Also, I have to mention the national radio. It has a branch in Latgalian region, and they produce 3 radio shows only in Latgalian, and one of them is for young people. Also, when they make radio stories about different things that happen in region, they take interviews from people in Latgalian. So it's up to them. Will they speak in Latgalian, or maybe some of them choose to speak Latvian literal language. Also, you can hear Latgalian in regional radios, but basically it happens only when they get special grants for the content in Latgalian, and the same is with regional TV companies. Also, of course, sometimes you can hear the Latgalian language on national TV, but right now there's no any specific TV show which would be in the Latgalian language, but previous years we have in summers. If I continue about this revitalization, I have to mention the annual Latgalian Culture Award Boņuks. The idea and goal of this award is the conservation and promotion of the Latgalian culture as well as the language. The award gathers and honors the most significant achievements in Latgalian culture during the previous year. And this award started as an initiative of some activists more than 10 years ago, and now it's organized by the regional concert hall, the same that I mentioned several minutes ago, and the event it's in very high level. And now I would like to show you a short video that you can get the feeling of this ceremony. So, I really wait each year this event because it's one of my favorite happenings in Latgalian culture. The next thing is that I want to mention is a cash machine, and the banking app in Latgalian. It was created in 2016. It is the app for clients of the bank. And they can use it for money transfers and other services. And the chairman of the bank declared that they did it with an aim to inspire citizens of that region to use their language. And in this way, they want to help them keep their identity. And 1 year later, they added the Latgalian language in their cash machines. So if you want to take cash, you can choose for this service the Latgalian language. One more cool thing that happened with Latgalian is this T-shirt. The Latgalian comedian and non-Latgalian lady who has her own brand for the magazine and outfits and accessories created this T-shirt. It gives the definition of the Latgalian word nameis. It says that nameis is the Latgalian way of not giving a fuck, and it's a word game. It is a Latgalian version of the name of a chief who lived in 13th century. And the fun with this is that nameis in Latgalian also means don't pee. And this T-shirt became very famous and popular, and many people wear it, and not only Latgalians. And this T-shirt got the Latgalian Culture Award. This year is very special for Latgalian because already many great projects are realized, and one of them is the movie The City on the River, which is the second featured professional movie in Latgalian. It had a premiere in January this year. This movie is about love. It's love story. The action happens in 20s and 30s and during the Second World War in Latvia. And different political regimes change, and the main character, who is painter Ansis, has to repaint street signs in other languages. And this movie shows what happened with the Latgalian language and culture during this period. So as I'm talking almost one hour, I will not show that trailer. You can later watch it. This photo where you see the movie's poster and the car, it was taken in Riga this January, and I'm sure that it was the first time when such a big poster in Latgalian was exposed in the capital of Latvia. And I took this photo, and I remember that special feeling that I had when I saw that huge poster. And actually, on January, it was very interesting feeling when I walked around the Riga, and on each corner there was a poster of that movie, and it spoke with me in Latgalian. Then I would just mention that we have several dictionaries in Latgalian. No one of them is perfect. I hope that next year someone will make a very good dictionary, but this is one of the best. Also, we have the Latgalian special Latgalian corpus. It's not so much for regular language users, it's more for scholars, but it gives them great opportunities to work with language and do their researches. At the end of my presentation, I would like to tell you about 3 my projects that I'm realizing this year. One of them is Facebook frames. We made them with the idea that people can express their Latgalian identity on Facebook. We have 2 phrases. One says that Latgola is cool. Another one says that I speak Latgalian. And so there are 6 versions, and people can choose which better fits for their profile photos. And if someone thinks to create something like this for their communities, then I can say that it doesn't cost a lot. It's maybe just someone can create these files. You have to create them in PNG format, and someone maybe can create them to you for free. Then on the Mother Tongue Day on February 21st, we started a campaign, a friendly place for the Latgalian language. We created a special sticker, and all institutions, are they private or are they municipality or state, are welcome to use it and show that Latgalian is welcome on their place, and people can just go and use the Latgalian language at these places. Already around 100 places joined. As you see, not only in Latvia, but yeah, basically they are in Latvia. And if someone wants to join and be on this list and use this sticker, you can text me and I will send you the file and you can print and stick it. My favorite project is Latgalian stickers for WhatsApp and Telegram. These are stickers that you can use on these apps. They are for free. We include different phrases that are used. For instance, good night, happy birthday, I love you, I miss you, wonderful, give 5. We have around 40 phrases and words. And now I would like to show you the video where you can see all these stickers. Yeah, unfortunately, we had problems with Apple company. because they didn't want to allow us to add the sticker up on their store. So now we have these stickers only for Android users, I mean for WhatsApp. But Apple users can use these stickers when someone who has the Android phone sends them, and then they can add their to favorites and send to other people. But for Telegram, you can use it on WhatsApp, on Android, and also Apple phones. And my presentation, I would like to end with the invitation to the Latgalian world. Of course, everyone from you is welcome to come to Latvia, to Latgale, and see all these things about which I told you in a person. But also you are welcome to visit the Latgalian world on the Facebook. We have the Facebook page exploring the Latgalian world, where we publish in English different interesting things about the Latgalian language, about culture, about famous Latgalians. Yeah, thank you. So about these questions, I think that I can't read all chat. Maybe if you had before, you just can copy them now, and I will answer to them. No one has any questions. I see that 4 people are typing now. Someone previous time asked how close is Latgalian to the Lithuanian language, because they are both of them are Baltic languages. So maybe this dictionary can help, because it also offers words in the same word. You can see how it's in Lithuanian, Latvian, and Latgalian. So which is the difficulties for the future? I think one of the difficulties is that this process is not organized, and basically it's voluntary work. This year I'm lucky because I got a grant, and now I can do during this year different activities, as these stickers, this map, this campaign that Latgalian is welcome. But and I would say that the state of Latvia, it doesn't have an idea what to do with the Latgalian language. Of course, it's not forbidden, but at the same time, the state doesn't have any program what to do. But maybe it will change. It depends on us as a community how big pressure we will do on politicians. So 3 more other questions. About these stickers, maybe Gilliam, I can call you another day and tell more, because these are technical details that maybe will not be interesting for other people. Financially, it's not such an expensive project. It depends if there is someone in your community who can make this graphic design for free. So about this dictionary, I'm just expecting this. There's no one who works on this right now. It's just my hope. So, what materials for children do you have? There are several something like ABC book. There is ABC book Skrejnīte, which means a box. So that's one material. Also, that has a digital version, and if Artyom will send me an email, I can send the link. Also, we have one more book, Gospels Piboniuka, and I think these are two basic books. Then we have some poetry books, some story books we have Little Prince in Latgalian, but it's not only for children, also for adults. Alice in Wonderland is translated in Latgalian. Someone asks, is Latgalian very different from, I guess, Livonian, from the Livonian language? Yes, it's totally different, because Livonian language is not the Baltic language. It's Finno-Ugric, if I use the correct term in English. Also in it's not that that Latgalians are the onlyest, I would say, community which has a special language. We also have, we had Budzas Estonians. The last person who spoke that language died several years ago. There's also Livonian. Also, we have this Salonian community, whose language is very similar to Latgalian, but they have a bit different this cultural background and the history of their language. So, questions? Someone asked where I can get this face mask. I must have it. You can just order it somewhere online. That's one is ordered online and was made more for fun, not so much for practical use. Which language situation you found the closest to Latgalian? I would compare it to the Frisian language, because I know more about the Frisian language. Last year in this calling project, I spent 3 months in the Netherlands. I would say that during that period, I recognized that in Latvia we are doing many the same activities as they are doing. Only the biggest difference is that in their case, it's a job for people. Like, people really each day go to their job and work on these, like on books, on different campaigns. But in Latvia, mostly people do it as volunteers. But yeah, I don't know so much about the situation in Spain in detail. So I will say that the situation with the Frisian is closer. And actually, Frisians has more in the different, different things for their language than Latgalians. But if compare in percent, that they are smaller community compared to the amount of people in their country. So actually, the Latgalian community it's very big. About this. Which else question? There is that problem that Latvia didn't sign this part, as Nicole says. I can't comment about these political reasons, because I haven't researched this issue. So, are there more questions? Mhm. So I think I answered to all questions. If there is more, please send. It's a bit odd that I don't hear you. I just read you and I speak with myself. Mm. Mm. Mhm. Yeah, everyone says thank. Then I guess that. Uh, do you have the Latgalian Language Institute? No, we don't have. There are some scholars who work on the language, and not only in Latvia. Also, two of them joined for today's webinar. They work in Poland, and we cooperate. And we are cooperating this international project. If we talk about scholars and society, I would say, and what I see from my private experience, they are doing great job, but there is missing this dialogue between them and the society. We need more explanations about different grammar rules because they decide about some things, for instance, how to write city names in Latgalian, and this information is published somewhere on their page, but 99.99% of the users of the language, they even don't know that they decided about these place names, so we miss this dialogue. Mm. Nicole says that I'm the Latgalian Language Institute. I would say that maybe we can name Lakuga.lv as the Latgalian Language Institute, because you can find there very useful articles. Yeah, one more question. How do you measure the efficiency of your language activism work? I can't answer to this question. I'm doing these things because they are important for me. And the same as I said about this revitalization, but when I'm doing my projects, I don't think that I'm now revitalizing the Latgalian language. How you can be sure that you are doing right things at the right moment? I can be sure. No one can be sure. I just think all these language activists, they just do what their heart says, and at the same time, as they are part of the community, I don't think that they have to ask permission to someone to do. It's their choice. If they make mistakes, it's their right. So someone asked was on. Probably Jānis Aišpurs was on the video, and he has sung in Latgalian. It's very nice. Tik lēnai, kā mums dūmus. Someone is typing the question. Most famous Latgalians nowadays. That's a good question. I think it could be Davis Sukarevskis, who played the main character in the newest Latgalian movie. He also was in that video that I showed you when I introduced with the Latgalian language. So what else? I just want to say about these celebrities that several days ago I took the interview from the Latgalian lady. I found her. I get to know about her on, I think, on January. I even didn't know that she exists, but she is a bit older than me, and like 15 years ago, she moved. She started her career as a model. She worked for huge brands and companies, and even I did it now. And now she works as a tailor, and she makes space suits for astronauts. And it's like her story really inspired me. And tomorrow it will be published on Lakuga. With this, I wanted to say that Latgalians with huge success are around the world, not only in Latvia. Does LSM.lv use Latgalian? Yes, they have articles in Latgalian because the content of that page is made by national TV and national radio. And as the national radio has the branch in Latgala region, they make their stories in Latgalian, but there are stories in articles in Latgalian only because their colleagues from Latgala wrote them in Latgalian. I guess there are no more questions. So probably maybe we can end. If someone has more, can text me later.
Paldies to Vineta. I would like to invite everyone at our next webinar devoted to Latvian language. It will take place at June 25th. So after the after the midsummer holiday, And many thanks to Vineta. Thanks everyone for joining us today, for your comments, for your questions. That's crucial for us, for our for the success of the work what we are doing. Thank you.
Bye.
Say it in Latgalian.
Can you say one more time your question?
Vineta, we kindly ask you to say bye in Latgalian, okay?
Yeah, I didn't hear the question. There was something with the sound. Paldies, ka piesavienojaties šodien. Es tieši ceru, ka jums patika. Un ceru, ka mana prezentācija jūsus iedvesmoja. Thanks for joining today. I hope that you enjoyed my presentation, and also I hope that it inspired you for work for your communities.